Good evening and welcome everybody to the 2023 financial plan presentation. My name is Mr. Bell. I'm the CEO of the RM. I'll be doing a co-presentation tonight along with our CFO, Mohammed Zaman, who's sitting beside me. Just for your information, Mohammed is celebrating his one-year anniversary with the RM today. So congratulations for sticking it out with us. After the presentation, we'll take time to do a Q&A session. So without any further ado, we'll pop up the slide deck for viewing, and we'll go from there. And hopefully the presentation will take about 40 minutes to an hour to present. So. Perfect. So again, welcome. We'll go to the next slide. So the agenda for tonight is basically there. What we'll try to do is provide you with an objective as to what the financial plan process is all about. Talk to you about a little bit about the assessment and mill rate and how that all works in the taxation process. Mohammed will be reviewing slides sections 3, 4, and 5 regarding the operating budget for revenues, expenses, as well as the fifth topic being the capital budgeting projects. So on the next slide, the public hearing objectives basically is to give an overview and operations and capital projects of the municipalities that are being planned for 2023. This is a mean to help try to educate the public about what's going on in the municipality and to assist them as to how those tax dollars are being spent right now. It's a good time to gather information, ask questions, and provide feedback based on the 23 proposal. The presentation itself will be submitted online. Council did give first reading, so once a presentation is completed, if they still feel comfortable with the proposed budget, they will likely give second and third reading, which is scheduled for tonight. Again, the website will have the plan and presentation on hand, ready to go once everything is adopted by council. So the financial plan hearing process is fairly straightforward. The first step is that we ask all department heads to submit their preliminary budgets. We look at them with the senior team, being Mohammed and myself, trying to figure out everything and what the asks are from all of the departments. We then sit down with council, have a session with them, and go through everything. They say, pull this, do that, add this, don't do that type of thing. So we come up with a revised budget, calculate the financial plan, calculate the mill rate, and here we are tonight with the public hearing. Upon the conclusion of the public hearing, council will then go back and adopt the bylaw for the financial presentation. So the big part of the process is knowing what the assessment and mill rate and taxation dollars are all about. So the mill rate formula, which is the next slide, is the ultimate goal of trying to figure out how many dollars we need to raise by taxation. We take those dollars and calculate what the portion value of the assessment is for the entire municipality, multiply that by 1,000 because it's mid, which is French for 1,000, and you come up with a municipal mill rate. The 2023 assessment, the last assessment, reassessment was supposed to be done in 2022, but because of COVID, it got pushed back to 2023. So the budget that we have in place right now reflects a reassessment value done for 2023. The portion assessment increased from 14% from the 2022 values to just over $668 million in assessment. That basically will bring approximately $297,000 extra in the budget. And we use these figures to calculate the budget and how we move these dollars ahead. So these are based on 2023 assessment. Now, the most common question I get is, how do I appeal my taxes? Well, you really can't appeal your taxes. What you can do is appeal the assessment, which is part of the calculation for your taxes. But you need to do that well ahead of time, because what we do is we use the information we receive from the provincial assessment branch come year end of 22 to get 23 assessment to do taxation for 23. So you cannot appeal your taxes for 23 or your assessment for 23 because that window has now closed. But 2024 assessment is soon to come out, and you'll have that opportunity to appeal those assessment values if you choose to do so. And that process is through the Board of Revision, which will be held on October 11th of 2023. So those values that are being disputed in 23 is actually your 24 values, which we will then take in 24 to start calculating the taxes and the bills for 2024. So just to give you an example of how the assessment has increased over an 8-9 year period, the slide indicates that we started off at 2015 at around 345 million and almost doubling in an 8-year period in 2023 at 668 million. So that is almost doubled for the past 8 years in assessment. You'll notice on the slide that there's some significant increases, and that is mostly due because of reassessment. Again, as I stated earlier, the reassessment is every 2 years. So if you look at those numbers, every 2 years they should have a jump, with the exception of 22 because of COVID that got delayed to 23. So just to give you a breakdown of what the assessment would look like, there's comparative values for 2022 and 2023 when it comes down to residential, agricultural, commercial, and other properties. So in 2022, we had a total value of 585 million of assessment, compared to 2023 of 668 million in assessment, which is a 14.2% increase. So depending where your category of assessment falls into, you could range anywhere from a 7% to a 28.5% if it's agricultural related properties. Just a brief description of how your tax bill looks and how it functions. There is basically 3 mill rates that will appear on your tax bill. There's the local school divisions, which is a special levy, the provincial, which is an education support levy, and that is not applicable to all properties, as well as council or municipal levy, which is applicable to all properties. So on the next slide, the first upper third of the tax bill basically provides us with the property information, the value, the land value, the building value, the classification of what that property is, and the proportioned value of assessment used for taxation purposes. The middle of the tax bill, which is the next slide, is the breakdown as to what is being collected as far as a municipal amount and as a school division amount. So in this example here, we have $1,500 for municipal school taxes, another $2,700 for schools, for a total of, with the rebate, for a total of $2,000. The bottom portion is basically a summary of the middle, which gives you the total for the schools and your total that is balance owing. Again, it tells you to who the check is payable to and the balance owing. You will also note that in the middle part of that slide is important information, so please take that under advisement as you look not only at your total, but there are some also messages that go with that. I won't spend too much time on the next slide because it is a school division portion. Unfortunately, as a municipality, we are responsible to collect the school portion of the property taxes, which we remit back to the appropriate school divisions. So on this slide, we have that provincial levy, and in Reach Out, we have 5 school divisions. So depending where you live in the RM, you may be associated with the Hanover, Louis Riel, Red River Valley, Seine River, or Sunrise School Division. You'll see the percentages and the dollars collected from 2022 to 2023, and that just gives you a feel as to what those school dollars are. On the next slide, it gives you a general overview as to what is being collected. So we're collecting just over $15 million of taxes, but we are responsible for 40% of that. The school division is then the 60% that we remit on a yearly basis. Just as comparison to last year's 2022, it was 39% municipal, 61 schools. So it's always been in that range since I've been in municipal administration, 60-40 split. So here's a breakdown of the proposed municipal levy for 2023. You'll note that the total from 22 to 23 is unchanged, so the mill rate will stay at 7.95. Just the internal calculation has been changed a little bit depending how and where those dollars are being put towards. Just wish to draw your attention to the reserves for the machinery replacement and fire department reserves. They're increasing to a 0.3 from 0.257 and a 0.214. Basically what we're doing is we're putting more dollars into these reserves because machinery and fire equipment is costing more and more, and the amount that we've been putting in will not be sufficient to replace the equipment in the future. So just trying to be proactive in building a healthy reserve for those, for the machinery and fire department. Overall, what that means is that if your assessment doesn't change from 22 to 23, your taxes won't change. But as we know, it's been a reassessment year, so whatever that reassessment value is, likely more, you'll pay more based on your reassessment of your property. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Mohammed, and he'll start discussing the internal numbers regarding the operating budget, revenue, expenses, and capital projects.
Thank you, Mitch. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, administration, ratepayers, and any media on the line. My name is Mohammed Zaman, and I am CFO for the RM. I will be presenting the rest of 2023 financial plan presentation. As CEO said earlier that we will allow time for questions and comments after the presentation. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight in this important session. Let's move on the agenda. As you see, there are 5 agenda points to disseminate the 2023 financial plan. The first 2 points has been just presented by CAO, and I'm going to jump on the third one, which is operating revenue. The total municipal revenue is 70.70 million for 2023 financial plan. This pie chart shows there are 3 components that make up municipal revenue. 34.5% is from municipal taxes, which is about 6.09 million. The second one is 33.5% is from other revenue sources. The detail will be on the next slide for other revenue sources, which is about $5.9 million. The third one is the 32% transfers from reserves, primarily for capital projects, which is about $5.7 million. And the next slide is about the other revenues. So the total other revenue sources for the municipality for 2023 financial plan is 5.9 million. So detail of other revenue sources are listed on page 2 of the financial plan. Overall, other revenue includes new construction changes, grants for specific purposes, and sale of services and goods as follows. Tax addition are basically a new assessment data due to changes that incurred from previous years for new build. Permits are largely associated with new constructions. Sales of services includes fees for issuing tax certificates, applications, fees for variance and rezoning, MPI fire department claims for motor vehicle clients, management of waste disposal sites, and recreation programming. Rentals are covered for rental space leases. Investment returns mostly from bank profit and insurance profit sharing and the tax penalties. Development fees is basically the municipal portions of the dedication fees. Grants are dictated typically by agreements to fund capital projects from provincial and federal governments, conditional and non-conditional. Further details can be seen on page 9 of the plan. And finally, the miscellaneous revenue. Miscellaneous revenue is basically sum of all those items that don't fit above. The next slide is about the municipal reserves balances. So the RM has various reserves as shown on the slide. So for this year, we have total beginning or the opening balance is 7.67 million in our reserves, whereas a forecasted revenue of 3.07 million for the current year, and the adjusted balance in the reserves is 10.78 million. So as you see, there are two bylaws 4 and 7, passed by the council back in 2015 for machinery replacement and the fire department reserves, which is being funded through mill rate. As you see in the current slide, in 2023, funding to these reserves have been increased from 150,000 to 200,000 each to replenish the necessary machinery and equipment in the future for better operations of transportation and protective services. All other forecasted revenue is the reserves coming from other revenue sources. The big amount of $2 million to general reserve is estimated to coming from GFL for disposal ground contracting out. Similarly, gas tax reserve fund is mostly funds received from the federal government based on the population of the municipality, and in 2023, RM is getting 392,000. So the next slide is about the utility revenue. So the total utility revenue is 6.28 million. Water and wastewater consumer sales is about 21%, that's 1.5 million. Development fee is make up 17.5% of utility revenue, which is 1.1 million. And grants, various grants make 32.4% of the utility revenue, which is about over $2 million. And transfer from reserve make 25.4% of the utility revenue, which is about 1.59 million. And other miscellaneous revenue is around 50,000. So, in the development fees, this is basically utility portions of development fees, which is transferred to utility reserves for future capital projects. The grant portion, basically, mostly, there are various grants, but in the utilities, there are from the Manitoba Water, the mostly and the big amount from the Manitoba Water Service Board for the grants, and transfer from reserves are basically for funding to utility capital projects. Miscellaneous revenues are all those items that one fit above. It is also pertinent to mention here that the utility of any municipality should be self-sufficient. That means no tax dollars can be transferred to support the utility operations. The next slide is about the utility reserve balance. So, before going ahead on this slide, I would like to say that effective January 1st, this year, all utilities have now been amalgamated to one utility as per Public Utilities Board Order number 104/22. So, in going forward, there will only be one combined reserve in future for utilities. So, currently we have combined 2.9 million opening balance in our utility reserves, whereas a forecasted revenue of 1.1 million for the current years make our district balance of over 4 million in our utilities balance. So the forecasted revenue to the reserve is from a utility portion of the development fees. So the next. So we have the operating expenses next on the agenda. So the total municipal operating budget expenses as shown by department is 17.7 million. As a municipalities, we must show a balanced budget. That means revenue should equal to expenses. So in municipal expenditure, so general government expense is 1.5 million, which is 8.8% of the total expenditure. Protective services is 890,000, which is Transportation service expenditure is 2.79 million, which is about 15.8% of the total expenditures. Environmental health is 740,000, which is 4.2%. Public health and welfare is 11,000, which is 0.1%. Environmental development is 8.5 thousand, which is less than 0.01%. Economic development expenditures are 512,000, which is 2.9% of the total expenditure. Recreation and cultural, 1.28 million, which is 7.3%, and fiscal services, 6.8 million, which is 38.6% of the total budget. Expenditures, transfers to reserve is about 3 million, which is 17.3% of the municipal expenditure. Allowances for tax assets is a minimal 5.8 thousand. So the next slide is about the general government, departmental wise. So the general government expenditure is 1.56 million, which is 10.65% more as compared to the last year. So under the general government, expenses include the council indemnities, municipal office operations, legal, audit, assessment, taxation and election, conferences, intergovernment relations, and insurance. So again, it's pertinent to mention here that only municipal insurance portion has gone up over 13% in current years, and on the other side, the cost of almost everything is going up, and the cost for the replacement of 3 computers for the office is also included under the general government budget. So the next slide is about the protective services. So the protective services budget is estimated to 890,000, 13.52% more as compared to last year. So the protective services cost includes maintaining 3 firearms, which means more than 50 firefighters, and the repair maintenance of equipment, EMO coordinator, flood controls, and 911 emergency enforcement of constructions. There's the building inspections, bylaws enforcement, and animal control. The next slide is about the transportation. So the total budget for the public works is 2.79 million, an increase of 24.53% as compared to last year. So the cost includes, under the public works department, is basically the public works shop operations and equipment, road maintenance, gravel, dust control program, sidewalks, streets and bridge work, snow, ice removal, and drainage and street lighting. Increase in fuel prices is also a factor of increase in the public work budget. So the next slide is about the environmental health. So the environmental health cost estimated to 740,000, which is, although it shows a decrease of 36.39% as compared to last year, basically there is no cut on the expenditures. The cost decreased because the expense portion of the municipal water system has moved to the utility side. So the cost includes, under environmental health, is garbage and recycling collection, curbside bulk collections. So over next collection days, Saturday, June 3rd and October 14. Please have items to your curbside by 8 a.m. on that day. This service is only available to all that currently receive waste management services. So the other cost includes under the environmental health is administer the Dutch LM program for the RM. The next one is for the public health and environment development. So there is 19.5 thousand for public health and environment development. It shows 21.88% increase as compared to last year. 21.8 percentage-wise, it looks big, but there is only 3,500 increase here. So what includes as a cost-wise under public health and environment is the social assistance and contribution to senior support. So it's a static amount year to year and no cost of living clause in the agreement. Under the environmental development, it's the McDonald Resort Planning District and monies for a review of the development plan by now. So the next one is economic development. So we have 513,000 budgeted for economic development, which is about 53.59% more as compared to last year. So the economic development cost includes distractions of pest, weed control, watershed districts and regional economic development officers and stocks, provide grants to a resort CDC, administers the tax incentive initiative. The increase is due to the allocations, budget allocations for one casual staff, and EDO department also working on some projects like senior housing project study and EV charging projects that total costing over 145,000. In out means if we get grants, then the projects will go on, otherwise no, are linked with the external grants. The next slide is about the recreation department. So we have 1.29 million budget for the recreation department, which is 26.57% higher than last year. So the main impact for increase in the cost of recreation department is due to external grant expenses of 69.4 thousand, which are again linked to the grants in and out, and also increase of funding for library services from 30,000 to 63.45 thousand to maximize provincial grants at the rate 8.5 per capita. So the other cost includes under the recreations department is staffing in the municipal office, operations, grants for community centers and halls, and skating rink, arenas, playgrounds, libraries, and cultural events. So the next one is fiscal services and the reserves transfers. So the fiscal services, under the fiscal services includes tax discounts. Council allows tax discounts, the last page of the tax levy bylaw for the early payment of the taxes, which is 1.5% for the June, 1.5% for July, and 1% for August. The other cost includes the debt payments. A separate slides will coming next, and the capital projects will be next on the agenda items. Transfer to reserves, basically 2023 specific revenue. This is the forecasted revenue amount. So the next slide is about the debenture. So totally we have total 3.23 million debt in the beginning of this year. After paying 421,000 principal amounts for this year, we will be ending up 2.8 million closing balance over debt. Currently, we have, as shown in the slide, we have 4 debentures on the books this year. One more will come off the books this year and another in 2026, leaving a balance of 2 debentures to become off as per their expiry dates, resulting to increase debt capacity of the RM. The next slide is about the utility expenditures. So the total utility expenditures is estimated to 6.28 million. The cost includes under utility expenditure is administration, water supply cost, sewage collection and disposal, capital projects, and transfer to reserves. So under the administration, it's the utility and admin staff salaries and wages and other admin expenses. Under the water supply cost, it includes service of supply, transmission and distributions and other water supply costs. And sewage collection and disposal, it's the sewage collection system, lift station, sewage treatment and disposal. So under the capital projects, in 2023, the utility capital projects are being funding 1.6 million through utility reserves and remaining over 2 million from the grants, mostly from the Manitoba Water Service Board. So the transfer to reserve 1.1 million is mostly the utility portion of the yearly development fee. So, and finally, capital budget with funding source for 2023. This includes municipal and utility projects and is split similarly to the expenditures by department responsible. So, the general government capital budget for the general government project is 3.41 million. We always look for shovel-ready projects that are funded by other levels of government, so that the burden is not placed on the public or a taxpayer. So, in general government capital projects, as you see on the slide, the big one is the municipal office expansion is 2.4 million funded through the general reserves. Civil site project is about 0.6 million, is funded through various grants and the general reserve. Aldershan and St. Adolph daycare projects, 0.2 million is from the capital reserves. Although Aldershan and St. Adolph daycare projects are fully funded by the province, but there are still some RM portions of cost associated to maintain those projects. So just for safe side, the funds are allocated in 2023 budgets. The EV charging projects, again working, is associated with the grant money and the portion of RM portions from the general reserves. Senior housing project study, St. Agatha, is again linked with the external grants, and if we get the grants, then our portions will come out from the general reserves. Security cameras as a continued process and projects is funded through the general fund. So before moving ahead, I would kindly request to Mitch for presenting the next 3 slides regarding office expansion and civic site project.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. So last year at this time, for the 2022 presentation, we were talking about the need and the requirements of moving ahead with a municipal expansion, office expansion project, et cetera. So based on the feedback that we received at that public hearing, the subcommittee has continued their work over the year, working on various layouts, sizes, proposals, roof lines, et cetera, carpets, vinyl, et cetera, paint colors, everything related to almost like a home building project. The committee finally narrowed down some of the items. Just a quick note that the expansion portion, we were at 6,000 square feet, and then realized, oh, this project might be a little bit over budget, or quite a bit over budget, because we're at the 6,000 square feet. So we went back to the drawing board, and we basically were able to downsize to a 4,200 square foot expansion. So what you see in front of you now is the proposed layout with the existing building at 3,750 square feet, and the new portion being the top of the sketch at 4,200 square feet, which overall would give us a new build at just under 8,000 square feet. Just to give you a conceptual view of what that would look like, we had the architects give us a conceptual rendering of what the building would look like. So this is kind of what it would look like. Just please note that the trees, birds, and people may not be there as drawn. The people are not budgeted for that, nor are the birds. The birds are the costly point of the whole thing. But it does give you a good overview. Just a quick update on the project itself. We are out to tender as we speak. The tenders are closing on April 27th. So we're hoping that there'll be interested parties and good pricing available out there to meet our 2.4, 2.5 budget goal. We did have a mandatory site meeting on April 13th, whereby we had a very, very good turnout as far as trades and general contractors showing up and having a bird's eye view of the building. So hopefully, moving forward, we will be able to realize a goal with a realistic price moving forward. Concurrently, we are also working on the civic site, and the civic site slide is an ever-changing document or sketch. Again, this is conceptual based on the new office layout. So we are always trying to work on improving the civic site, but again, conceptual things may change by the time the building is built to the time that everything is laid out. We're trying to work these two projects concurrently, so that is going to be a juggling act nightmare, but we'll get through it. And just as information, if you're really curious, go to Google Maps and drag that little yellow guy onto the street, and you'll get a civic view or a view of 2019, I believe, is the last time the car drove by, and you'll see what basically you see now. But if you back up the dates of that calendar to March of 2009, back in the day of when it was the Berdure dealership and the cars on the lot and the fencing, you'll see a tremendous difference between 2009 and 2019, 2020 to what we are looking at now, and 2023, hopefully, to what it will be look like in the near future. So, with that said, I will turn it back to Mohammed to continue on the capital projects.
Thank you, Mitch, and I'm back on the track again. So our next slide is about the capital budgeting for protective services, which is 79,000. So we have 4-door pickup truck, used truck for Aldershot under this capital budgeting for protective services and funded through the fire reserves. The cost is 45,000. The other one is the setup Aldershot pickup with lives in Woodland tray, lights, radios, decals, and center guards, Woodland unit, pump, tank, and toolbox. 34,000 again from the fire reserves. The next slide is about transportation, capital budgeting for transportation services. Total budget is 1.14 million, and out of 1.14 million, 330,000 is for equipment. So as you see on the slide, under equipment, there are one-ton used truck, 37,450. The fund source is coming from the machinery reserve, John Deere loader, and the Caterpillar Snowblade, Bobcat, auger drive unit is combinedly 68,550 from the machinery reserves. The fast cover, fabric structure, and the shuttle mower combined cost is $91,080. The individual cost of the equipment is listed on the page 13 of the project if anyone want to see in detail. The next one is the 2013 Kubota tractor, which is $61,040, funded through the machinery reserves. Cut down the last one.
I think that's okay. It's basically the values are declining as we go, so I think we could move on to the next slide. Let's pick up the next projects or purchases.
So the continuation on the capital project of the transportation services. The roads and buildings are budgeted about 809,000, including pole shed upgrades, which is 374,500, and funded through the general reserve. Urban road constructions, land drainage system, remedial work in standard off is 261,000, funded through gas tax reserve. Pembina Trail pathway and land drainage system, Center Garth, remedial work is about 91,000, funded through the gas tax reserve. And the miscellaneous roads in Grand Point, remedial work is 46,000, again funded through the gas tax reserve. And Legacy Drive in Bay North, LDS, and what we call this road?
Curviga,
land drainage system remedial in Grand Point is about 36,450, which is funded through gas tax reserve and the general fund. So the next slide is about the recreation capital budgeted for the recreation department. So the capital budget for the recreation department is 458,000 in total, which includes the projects which Boardman Park 150,000, funded through the grants, reserves, and the community groups. Sport Ice Plant in St. Agatha is funded 150,000 is funded through grants, reserves, and the community sports, St. Agatha boat launch and pathway. 95,000 is funded through the general reserve, parent park, 40,000 funded through the recreation reserves, TC Energy Park study, 15,000 funded through the general fund, and our trailer for 8,000 is funded through the recreation reserve. So the next one is the capital budget for resort utilities, which is 4.77 million. The project under the resort utilities are Aldershot, Grand Point Lagoon expansion, which is 1.9 million, funded 50% through Manitoba Water Service Board and 50% through general reserve. Resort water treatment plant upgradations, 1.8 million total cost, and again 50% from the Manitoba Water Service Board and 50% from the resort water reserve. Randolph Road well site study and construction, 375,000. Again, 50% is coming through the Manitoba Water Service Board grants money and 50% from the general reserve. Lagoon secondary cell repair is 300,000 is funded through the resort water reserves. The next slide is the continuation of the utility capital projects. Main Street sewer repair, 150,000 is funded through the Aldershot water and sewer reserves. Yard water supply well site, 127,000 funded through the rural water reserves. 2023 half-ton truck, 65,000 from resort water reserves, and Lagoon dump station solar gate, 51,500 funded through the St. Rudolph water and sewer reserves. So the next one is municipal reserves balance after capital projects. So we have adjusted balance under municipal reserve balance is 10.73 million, whereas allocated to capital projects for the current year is 5.66 million, leaving a closing balance of over 5 million by the end of this year. The next one is for utilities reserve balance after capital projects. So we have
from what I could tell on the slide, we opened up with an adjusting balance of 4 million. We will spend approximately 1.5 million, leaving 2.4 million. And we apologize for the break in the slide.
So, I have almost done my part of the presentation, and thank you very much for the attending. Once again, I would request to Mitch, CEO, to join for closing of the presentation. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. So there you go, folks. We have municipal operating budgets as well as municipal capital budgets in place proposed for 2023. As I said earlier in the presentation, the financial plan along with this deck slide will be made available on our website at www.reachot.com. Friendly reminder that property taxes are due, as always, on October 31st by 4:30 close of office. and that's a Monday, so if you sleep in, please remember that if you're giving out candy and you haven't paid your tax bill, it's a little bit too late, but anyway. And again, regarding the 2024 assessment, you will have your opportunity to rebut with the provincial assessment branch your evaluation, property evaluation for 2024, and that date is set for October 11th on 2023. Thank you for attending, and at this point in time, I will be opening the floor for a Q&A mini session. We do have a meeting at 7 p.m., and I know council would like to start preparing for that as well. Mr. Guadon, please.
Okay, I have a few comments. First of all, I had a lot of questions. Most of them I sent to Mitch, and he answered all very quickly and very accurately, so thank you, Mitch. And anybody else in the council that I've approached and asked for information, I get it back very quickly without any delay at all. So I want to thank everyone for that. I want to make a comment about the time of this meeting, 5:30 in the afternoon. Most people are working. The chances of somebody taking time off of work to come and look at this important thing is not likely. That's why I don't have anybody here, partly. It doesn't mean it will be full, but we need to have this meeting in the arena where it's full of people asking questions and attending. And now we come here, there's a few people here, I think probably give it a time. Now you have another meeting at 7 o'clock. Now the 7 o'clock meeting is full of things about bylaws, which is important to the people who are on bylaws. So if anything, this should have been 7, the bylaw people should have been 30, and then there would be lots of time. Now, I was told that you guys discussed it with the council, agreed on this. So I don't think it's correct. I think we should be able to allow the public the opportunity. If they choose not to come, they choose not to come. But to put an important meeting like this, and these are people who have spent a lot of time, excellent presentation of all the factors, I think there's a lot of people who would like to know that. You know, if I told people that I interact with, do you know how much your tax might be next year, or how much they would go up? You would say, I'm going to go. But for them to find out what it's going to be, they can plan ahead. Probably your taxes are going to go up 5, 6, 7%, right? You put that in your budget, and get your things going. So I think in the future, I'd like to see this meeting where either it's at the arena or a point where everybody can get a real opportunity to look at this. Now, a lot of people are not that much interested, but if they got to see this, you would see more interest. More interest means more people voting, more people finding out, more people getting together in the thing. So I just think that would be a good change. The second thing I want to talk about, very quickly here, because I know. Like Mitch answered most of them, okay? Skip that. Okay, I want to talk about Senegal. Okay, I don't live there, but I'd like to live there because every time there's something up there or money being spent, Senegal gets money. Now, I'm here to talk about Perron Park. It says $40,000 were put up. So I wanted to find out when is this going to be done, because I think this is the third year and $40,000 just showed up on the thing. Well, I talked to, I think it was Shane, he's on holiday, we did give us some information. Basically what's happened is $40,000 is nothing, because the budget is $300,000, and he has told me they have no way of finding out how they're going to raise the money or what they're going to do. There's a possibility that we might get one of the structures done this spring or by fall. Now, I've lived here in that part of the town. I've lived here 35 years, but over 20 years in that part of that town. That park looks like it did 20 years ago. If anybody wants to see my grandchild who is playing in the park, who is now in his second year of university, okay, that's how long that park looked like that. St. Adolphe is the highest population of all the wards, okay? therefore it probably pays more taxes than any of those works, okay? And nothing is being done there. There's no projects, no recreation, nothing. And now, I'm not saying whose fault that is or whatever, but to have a thing on there for the third year, and for me to watch, okay, and your boat was 90,000, what, 150,000 this year, or 95,000? Something else, boat launch 95,000, some other ones 150,000. And we haven't even got a project in our part done at all, not even started. They haven't decided on the plan. Now, I think personally, $300,000 is way too much on that part, right? If you can build a house for that amount of money, right? So I just think that the question I have, how do I, or our town, which is put more taxes, we've got more population, we are growing faster than any other ones, according to the percentage I have, how do we get something done recreation-wise in our part of town? How do we do it? Anybody got an answer? Oh, there he is.
That's my role. So basically, you need to lobby either the recreation director, your local councillor, and/or council as a whole in order to move priorities up and down the list.
Who decides? Who makes the decision? And I'm not blaming Senegal, I just see, if you go to run this tonight, you'll see Senegal on every one of those things where money's being spent, Senegal is in it. And they got a third of the population of Senegal. Somebody has to make the decision here, whether that gets done.
Yes.
How do I get the people to get the decision to make it done? I can't even find out who makes the decision, they won't tell me. They tell me to talk to the guy in charge of recreation. He doesn't make the decision. Is he the one that decides, okay, make that, make that? If he went and came and said, stop your project to rebuild this thing, and, I decided I would rather have a park done, you would allow that. You would vote it out like nothing. So who decides which project is done?
At the end of the day, and it goes back to one of my original slides, it starts off at the, all these sub-managers or whatever, the department heads, to put those numbers together. Then it comes to us, we look at it, then we bring it to council, and at the end of the day, ultimately, those projects at the end are determined by council.
Okay, can you tell me why it's the third year? And if that's the case, whoever's in charge of putting it up, okay, is not doing their job.
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on that, not too much right now, but, council, from when I started, we look at funding and finding projects a little bit more grand scale and focusing on one town.
how you do it, okay? So, does that mean our counselor, okay? Maybe he didn't do he didn't go down.
Valid.
Okay, so, what I wanna do, okay, it's not the end of the road, but it's not done. I'm looking for fairness, okay? Now, if we bring that to council, right, and somebody says, to us, oh, I'm sorry, we're not gonna do it. You know what I mean? So, it's an older community, it's not the youngest ones, or the young people are more into committees and all that other stuff. That's true, we're not like that. But, if you think that, you know, we will go ahead and start a committee, okay, I will do that. And, with Jason,
We'll talk next steps, because I think that the community has had, but we can do that another day.
Yeah.
So-
It's just, I came here tonight to see what, that presentation, but I did come here tonight to also find out how we can make our project go before I live it. I just wanna think that,
I also just want to point, we just started the recreation advisory committee a couple of weeks ago, so we're working on priority projects within the RM, Warren. Projects like that come to the rec advisory committee where we discuss it, we have a grading scale, we have, I don't use the wrong part of it. Because the committee usually bring those projects to that committee, so that is another step that we're taking.
can I ask a
To
question?
prioritize.
The gentleman in charge of that, what's his name, in charge of the rec? Shane. Is he a professional, experienced person doing that?
He comes from Sport Manitoba, is his background, so recreation is his background.
Or he?
Project work, he will get the people necessary
So he's not a
involved.
project guy, so he's learning on the same way, right? He
Well,
knows
he
recreation.
he understands projects,
Okay,
so then it's up to him to execute those projects.
okay.
So for the $40,000, I will make it my duty to stay on top of his progress and get that done.
Okay. So, it wouldn't be out of place if I contacted him and say, you know, can I get some input on this and,
That wouldn't be a problem.
okay.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, that's what I said, okay? I just wanted to find out how I could get it going, right? It was, like I said, you're saying, look, it's not, look over, you go past there all the time, that's, like I say, I see that every day. My house, backyard, okay? I have some other questions that are small questions that I can know from part of it. Really quickly, what does Niverville have to do with us? I see things with Niverville.
Yes, they do have, an arena that is part of the municipality still pays towards, but it's localized to the citizens living in Rechaw, but associated with Niverville.
So Risha people have access to that, arena?
They also, like, if you wanna book a nice rental, I'm assuming that's
Are we
very,
contributing money towards Niverville? Okay. Gas taxes, goes from $169,000 to $561,000. Or whatever, how does that happen? What is gas taxes?
gas tax is a funding program from the federal government
Okay.
that we get on a yearly basis. I believe it's per 5-year renewals.
Yeah.
So again, the federal government has and continue to increase the gas tax funding contributions to municipalities.
Yeah.
So therefore, we take that money, we put it into the reserve, and it's a specific reserve meant for their criteria of projects for the funding. So you can't just go build an office expansion and use the gas tax. You need to build roads, you need to do sidewalks, you need to do what their criteria is.
What is SARD two? It was up on,
San Adolph Ring Dike expansion, that's the project for, San Adolph, and it's one landowner paying that debenture. One landowner,
really?
yes. It's the developer.
Daycare was spending more, $200,000 on the daycare? Which is on.
That's for the
Not the
two
state
units.
Not the daycare.
$100,000 for the newly proposed Ile de Chêne daycare, 74 spot in Ile de Chêne, and another proposal for San Adolph, a 74 daycare spot in San Adolph.
Most more in San Adolph?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Land values, who determines land value?
province,
Promise.
Department of Assessment,
Okay,
provincial assessment.
okay. I've asked enough questions, taken up too much time. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to my tirade about not having a park.
Thank you, Mr. Well.
Thank you.
That was
Any
good.
other questions
Thank you.
from the audience? Again, thank you very much for your participation, and, we will likely move forward with second and third reading of the financial plan bylaw. Thank you very much. And a recording.